Hello friends, welcome back. If you remember in the last video lecture, we explored the evolution of typography through a lot of examples and discussion. We looked into how technology has influenced the form and overall look and feel of typography and of course the letter form and characters. And we also looked into how different social reform and then movement influence different kind of styles. But the one thing was very clear, whether it is new typography or Swiss typography or Bauhaus ideology, the minimal approach, more focus on functional aspect was the key, and this that is what is working out in current scenario as well. Now let us look into type classification. Type classification is the process of categorizing typefaces based on their visual characteristics, historical context, and intended use. Understanding type classification aids designer in choosing fonts that match the intended tone, purpose, and readability for any project. Each classification serves unique function, from conveying formality to ensuring legibility on digital platforms. If you look into the classification system, it can also help to identify and combine various typefaces in a right manner. There are different systems of classification, but most typefaces fall under one of the three basic groups: serif, sans serifs, and scripts. Serifs are characterized by small decorative strokes or serifs at the end of each letter. If you look into the screen, so these are serifs, small serif. It's a small decorative part which is attached with the letter, right? Serif fonts are considered traditional and often seen as an elegant, formal, and highly readable in print. For example, Times New Roman, Garamond, etc. Sans serif fonts lack the decorative strokes or which is there in serif fonts, resulting in a clearer and more modern look. So if you look at this A and or Futura, that is the good example where you don't have such kind of ornamentation. Sans serif typefaces are popular in digital designs for their readability on a screen as well. And some of the good examples are Roboto, Verdana, Franklin Gothic, Helvetica, Futura, right? The third one is script font, which mimic cursive handwriting and often used for decorative purpose. They can range from formal calligraphy to casual handwriting style. For example, brush script, lobster, etc. If you look at this image, it shows different features of serif font based on which it takes different names. For example, based on terminals, it can be uh, wedge serif, bracketed serif. So when you say bracketed serif means there is a bracket which has been formed. Wedge serif, it has taken a shape of wedge. That is also called cupped serif. And when you have this calligraphic style, okay, asymmetrical touch in the letter form, which is also more like a calligraphic strokes called calligraphic serif. Within that, there is slab serif where you have a slab kind of structure attached. Then you have bracketed slab where you have a curve. Here the line is uh, it is angular 90 degree. Here you will find there is a curve. So this category falls under the display serif uh, and 19th century style. And you can also see this kind of decorative quite popular in Indian context when you are looking into the letters which has been written on shop signs, and then especially the truck art. So you will find Tuscan style, which is quite popular, and maybe antique Tuscan or something, other decorative elements. Also, depending on terminals, letter takes different kind of features. So, for example, ball terminals, uh, whether it is bracketed, you find curve, or it's very edgy and angular, right? So it is called unbracketed. So this kind of different beak you can see. So the lot of literal word meaning has been taken from the day-to-day life stuff, and this is how the terminals also differentiate one letter with another letter. Also, even just based on the form of the decorative lines attached with the end of the letters, uh, it can be identified differently, such as for example, the first case where you have unbracketed slab serif. So you have a sharp angle and then a straight slab attached, where you will find a very thick slab-like structure which is attached with the all the terminals. Similarly, if you look at this is bracketed slab serif, where you will find the curve, which I explained in the earlier slide. And this is again, it has become thin, but at the same time, uh, this is bracketed serif. This is unbracketed serif, right? So you don't see any bracket. This is hairline serif. So the attachment is in the form of hairline. Then this is wedge serif, where you see little curve, right, which is coming down. So it's like a wedge structure. Then there is a slur serif as well, where you will find the rounded treatment given to the end of the letter. Clear? Now, if you look into another school of thought, serifs and sans serifs can be further categorized into different groups. If you make more inquiry into the serif categories, you will find there are 4 different types of serifs: old style, traditional, modern also called as neoclassical, and slab serif. Known for their classical and timeless appearance, this old style serif, which is visible on the screen, right? Uh, these fonts have moderate contrast between thick and thin. So if you look into the strokes, this is not so dramatic. So there is a moderate contrast between thick and thin strokes. And they also they are rounded and having a diagonal stress. So this is a stress in letter form, where thick and thin stroke changes. So weighted stress fall at 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock, so very diagonal. They are inspired by early Renaissance calligraphy and are often associated with warmth and readability. So they are good font for readability or reading on any printed or screen format. And if you look into the example includes Garamond and Bembo. Bembo is visible on the screen. Okay, so please remember this. Now the stress is diagonal. There is very moderate contrast between the strokes. You will also find hairline 10, which tends to be on a heavier size, means you have a thicker hairline strokes, and serifs are bracketed. And if you look into the head serif, they are angled. Okay, and then in some version you will find this in letter E, they have a diagonal cross strokes. So these are the few characteristic features. Now, if you look into transitional serifs, these this have greater contrast between thick and thin strokes than old style font. So if you look into this, right, there is a very huge contrast. Okay, not so extreme, but there is a greater contrast. And they have vertical stress in letter E, you can see, Now the stress has shifted from diagonal to vertical style. This style marks a tradition from old style to modern serif, becoming element of both. And most of the example includes Baskerville, Times New Roman, Americana, Electra, and Perpetua. Some of them are visible on the screen. Baskerville is there. So, and then if you look into the head serif, it is oblique in nature. Let us move ahead. If you look into neoclassical serif, they are known for their high contrast between thick and thin strokes, with thin straight serifs and a strong vertical stress. Right? So if you look at letter O, now the stress it's still vertical, which is similar to the earlier one, which is serif transitional, but the contrast has become very high, and then stress has become very prominent. These fonts are often used for a sleek, sophisticated look, but can be challenging to read in small sizes because this thin strokes might vanish. And some of the good examples includes Bodoni, Aripo, and the Dot family group fonts. Another thing is many cases you will find ball terminals, and of course the contrast is extreme. And this kind of font is also highly used in fashion magazine. It's give so richness and then and lot of glamour when it is used. Now also called Egyptian serif. This is another group, slab serif. They have thick block-like serif that are attached with the end of the strokes. So these are typically the same, most of the time same thickness as the rest of the letter. So the serif, the thickness of the letter strokes and then serif, you will find the same. They convey a bold, strong look and are often used in headline, posters, and branding. If you look into the examples, examples includes Lobelin Graph, Silica, and Courier. And there are a few more examples which is visible on the screen. If you look into the role, serif fonts are generally easier to read in printed text, as the serif which is attached with the letter guide the eye along the lines of text. They convey a sense of tradition, authority, and formality, making them popular in print, such as books, newspapers, and academic publications. And because of their range from old to modern, serif fonts often they offer a wide range of tones and aesthetics. Similarly, now we are moving to the sans serif category. Sans serifs can be also put into 4 subcategories based on different characteristic features. They are grotesque, neo-grotesque, humanist, and geometric. Sans serif fonts become popular in the 20th century as modernist design emphasizes simplicity and functionality. Grotesque can be further categorized into neo-grotesque. Grotesque is one of the earliest style of sans serif, where it has slightly irregular shapes with some contrast in thickness of the strokes. This style has a functional and sturdy appearance, often used in signage and branding. If you look into the examples, this include Accidents Grotesque and Franklin Gothic. So this is what we are talking about, old grotesque style. Now on the screen which is visible, it's called sans serif grotesque, which is the new style or neo grotesque. So this kind of fonts features cleaner, more uniform letter forms, compared to the grotesque style, which is old style with minimal stroke contrast. So here you will find hardly any stroke contrast within the letter. Neo-grotesque sans serifs are widely used for their clarity and simplicity, especially in corporate design. And examples include Helvetica and Universe. Right? So you will remember. So here in the neo-grotesque, there is hardly any difference in terms of strokes. So obvious contrast in the stroke weight is negligible. All right. So moving ahead, humanist sans serifs are influenced by traditional calligraphy. So you can see the touch of feel of calligraphic strokes within the font, and this is Gaudi Sans is one of the very interesting font. Okay, so they are influenced by traditional calligraphy with subtle variation in stroke width and more organic letter forms. This style offers warmth and readability, often used in body text for its friendly, approachable feel. And if you look into the examples, they include Gaudi Sans, Gill Sans, and Optima. Right. So if you all the counter is also very interesting and very rhythmic. As the name suggests, geometric sans serifs are based on simple geometric shapes like circles and squares, resulting into clean modern letter forms. They have a more minimalistic, futuristic look, often used for headline, logos, and branding. And if you look into the examples, Futura, Avenir, Bauhaus, and Avantgarde, all these are part of this geometric typeface. Within geometric, this is an example of a square category where you will notice that the font is more squarish, mostly in the condensed form. You can clearly define this. So if I have to summarize the characteristic features and uses of sans serif fonts, sans serifs are particularly effective on screens and also effective at its smaller sizes, where their simple uniform shapes enhances legibility. These fonts are often associated with modern design and convey a sense of simplicity, neutrality, and functionality. Sans serif fonts are widely used across digital platforms, if you will notice, mostly on the website, including mobile apps, software, and software interfaces. And they are common in branding, advertising, and editorial design as well. These are examples of script style fonts where letter form are mimicking handwriting style, right? So it looks like it has been written in one go with a pen. So this is another category of the classification. Now if you look into the anatomy of letter refers to the individual parts that makes up each character in a typeface. Understanding letter anatomy helps designer analyze and work with type more efficiently, or you can say more effectively, as each part influences readability, style, and overall aesthetics. Here are the main components of letters anatomy. For example, this is a baseline, right? The invisible line where most of the letters sit. For example, letter E, letter C, or letter U, I, X. Okay, they all rest on this line. While letters with descender like Q and G extend below this line. So this is baseline and then they extend below this. Cap line is the height of the uppercase. So here. So this is measured from the baseline to the top of the capital letters. Example, height of letter H and T. This is a key measurement in type design. Okay. X height, if you look into the X height is defined as the height of the lowercase letters from the baseline to the top of the letters. X. Okay, here there is no X, but this is the X height. So basically height of the lowercase letter. X height affects readability, especially in smaller text. It determines how tall lowercase letters can appear. And when you have a higher X height, that means you have a possibility of having bigger counter spaces, right? This is a counter. And when there is a bigger counter, that means you have opportunity to reduce the size and still you will have counter visible on the page or screen. Now there is a term called ascender. So this is the ascender line. Okay, this is a part of lowercase letter like B and H or D that extend above the X height. So this is X height and this goes above X height. And also you will notice that ascender line or ascender height is little above the capital cap line or height of the capital letters. And this is to do with the optical correction, which we will discuss later. Similarly, there is a descender line. So in the bottom you say this descender line is the part of lowercase letters like G, P and Y here, or maybe Q. Okay, so this part is called descender, and the where it sit, it is called descender line. Okay, stem is the main vertical stroke in letter. So this is stem. Like in letter T, L, all those letters, it is usually the thickest part of the letter. Then there is a bowl, right? Where is bowl? You can say this one. Okay, so there is a so bowl is a curved part of the letter that encloses a space. So like in letter Q, okay, letter A or letter E here, that is also called. So and then letter D, the enclosed space within a bowl is called counter space. So inner side is called counter. Okay, then there is a shoulder which is a curved stroke. Okay, this one, and that extend outwards from a stem most of the time, as seen in letter H, M and N. Then there is an arm. Arm is a horizontal or upward sloping strokes that does not connect to the another strokes. So this is arm in letter K. So then also in letter K there is leg, right, which is going downwards sloping strokes, also often seen in letter R. Similarly, these are some more features, such as if you look into this, there is a spur, there is tittle, which is the dot on the letter I, then there is a ball terminals, there is arm, then this is bowl. Okay, and then you have shoulder, you have serif, you have counter space, you have ear in letter R. Similarly, you have spine in letter S. Okay, you have stem, you have link in letter G. Right? So these are a very unique part of the letter, and that plays a very unique role in the structure and design of a typeface. The shapes, proportions and variations of these parts give different typeface their character, their identity, style and readability. Different scripts have different types of classification and anatomical feature. Till now we have just discussed these features in relation to Latin scripts. However, there is a huge opportunity in Indian script to define and understand these anatomical features in detail. There are many studies which have been done on Indic script, especially on Devanagari, to understand and define the anatomical feature in detail. For example, if you look at this representation by Babu Rao Naik, it illustrates the complexity of Indian scripts. Right? So if you look into this, now there are multiple lines. So you have baseline like the Latin, and you have headline, which is there as a capital line. Then there is Rukar. Rukar is basically where the lower matra comes, and then which is covered, and then you have Rafar, right, and then you have matra line as well, where matra comes. Then you have bindu, you have a lot of other. So you have conjuncts where two letters connect, it becomes conjuncts, which is not there in Latin. And then you have rafar, and you have badi and choti, dirghai. Okay, so these things are there. Then you have loops, and sometimes open counter, sometimes close counter. Okay, so you will remember this. This is very interesting study which is done by Babu Rao Naik. Now, also to construct Devanagari letters, there are different proportions in which letter strokes and letter heights are connected. One of the basic letter proportions is 3:6:3. So if the thickness of your nib is this much, so 6 times of this will become the body, okay, which is called kana height, and then 3 will become the matra height, and then 3 will become ukar height, which is the bottom matra. Okay, so but this is not something which is fixed. This can be changed depending on the requirement or the style you want to design. Okay, clear? So if this is x, then this will become 6x, this will become 3x and 3x. So 3:6:3. So going ahead, this is another example of grid system for Devanagari developed by Mukund Gokhale, which is based on human proportion. And terminology, most of the terminology has been directly derived from human body parts, such as, for example, you see Sirorekha, which is directly connected with Sir. And most of the terminology has direct reference to the human body. The Sirorekha is a continuous line. This is the Sirorekha, a horizontal line that runs along the top of the letter in a word. This line usually connects all the characters within a word, creating an unified appearance, right? Then you have Skandarekha, right, which is about soldier. Then you have Navi Rekha, which is falling towards your Navi. Then you have Janu Rekha, which is thigh. Then Tal Rekha, which is the bottom of the earth. So all this, so there are different scholars. Now if you go with this kind of classification, the proportion changes. Now it says 4:8:4. So that's what I said. It totally depends on what kind of style and height and font you are looking for. All right then, so we will stop here, and we just looked into in a very brief way into the classification, and I guess for this introductory course this is sufficient and enough. I hope you will remember some of the terminology and then some of the fundamentals we discussed in this video, and you will be able to understand a letter anatomy and how you will be able to comprehend how different anatomical features help in letter recognition and function. So in next video we will further discuss and try to understand how different construction approaches influence the overall look and feel of any letters. Till then, bye and see you soon.